Hey, everybody, episode 10, aftermarketweekly.com. It's live every Tuesday at noon Eastern time. Carm Capriato here, along with my co-host, Tom Ham. We are the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid of the automotive aftermarket.
Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Happy Tuesday to you, my friend, Tom. Good to have you guys. Hey, Tom's from Automotive Management Network, and of course, he owns a shop, Autocentric, up in Michigan. And I reside at Remarkable Results Radio. We also do the Town Hall Academy and a lot of fun stuff for all aftermarketers. Glad to have you all here. Don't forget to share this post with your colleagues as you're watching the fastest 25 minutes of automotive aftermarket information that you're going to ever get each and every week. And don't forget, we can see the comments that anyone has on Facebook. Love to have your comments, and who knows, as much as we have this all scripted out, we may have a chance and an opportunity for a question or two. Tom, where's the shop tour today?
Oh, the shop tour is in Portage, Michigan.
Cool.
And we're going to go to Kendall Auto Repair and see Steve Kirk.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. It's so much going on in our industry, and the thing I love about this show is how you are able to, and we're able to discuss all these cool and trending topics. And actually, let's go there right now, Tom. Let's talk about a trending topic.
See what's trending. Again, this is one of those long trends that keeps going, and it's fun to see. I remember for years and years, one thing that I always look forward to, one thing that I always watched in the trade magazines and so on, is car age would keep creeping up.
Yeah.
That was always good news. When you're in the repair business, the older car age gets, the better. I can remember it was a big deal. They made a really big deal of it when it went over 10 years. That was just huge. Everybody was just staggered by the fact that it was over 10 years.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, 10 years doesn't mean there's a bunch of 20-year-old cars just to balance off the brand new ones because they there's fewer as they get older. So that means there's a lot of 25, 30-year-old cars to get up to 10.
Yeah.
Well, the headline that caught me the other day, and this was domestic cars are talking about. Domestic cars are almost up to an average age of 15 years.
Amazing. Domestic cars. And that means we got a lot of 30, 35, 40-year-old cars to get it up that high. Yeah, yeah. Now, when you say domestic, are you just talking about the original three that we always grew up with, the 4 GM Chrysler? Okay.
What us old guys call the big three.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the big three. GM, Ford, Mopar. Those are the cars that are really bringing it up. Now, the average age of all cars is a little bit lower, but it's the domestics are higher. Imports are lower for several different reasons, and that's something they covered in here. Lower new car sales, increased percentage of import sales. Cars are lasting longer than ever. I mean, just understatement. And there's fewer brands today, domestic brands. Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Mercury, Plymouth are all gone. And some of those were some really nice cars. Kind of a shame to see them go. Just the age is staggering. You probably one thing I never asked you: did you work in a gas station when you were a kid?
Yeah, yeah, of course I did.
Okay. Half the people our age did. Back then, I remember working late 60s, early 70s, and maybe people will be surprised to hear that when you worked in a gas station in 1970, you virtually never saw a car from the 1950s. They were all dead, they were gone, or there were a few of them behind farmers' barns. We would buy those for $5 or $10 and make them into field cars. I don't know if you ever did field cars.
They were in mud storage.
Yes, they were. Yeah, you never know when you need a part. I mean, that's how farmers do things. But my observation with why the domestics are older, another reason is just people love them more. They tend to be more interesting. It's stuff that people they restore them, they collect them. I was thinking about this time of year when we all go to the car museums, we go to the car shows, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And when you walk up and down these car shows, you just don't see a whole row of Preludes, Cressidas, and Jettas.
No, okay. You take some of the classic. We fall in love with our cars, here in America. I can't imagine the Japanese falling in love with a Datsun. I mean, for some reason, I couldn't imagine that. But we fell in love with our Chevys. We did. In our Ford.
Oh yeah, well, there's this. Maybe that'll change as time goes on. Especially if you go back in the '70s, a '70 Datsun and a '70 Camaro or Mustang aren't quite the same. It's a little difference there.
Yeah, we did fall in love with our cars, and you know what is a great time of the year, Tom, to see all of them out on the road.
Oh, and when they're out on the road, also here's the real thing for. That's more, these cars get to this age, and now people they flip the switch in these cars. It's no longer it's an old car we're not going to spend much on. Now it's an old car and it's cool, and we're going to spend a lot on it.
That's right.
So these things start coming into the shop, and we start fixing up. And it's a great profit center. If you get a few of those out front, you'll attract more. What's the oldest car? What's the oldest domestic car? Well, any kind of car, I guess, that you ever owned.
That I ever owned? Are you talking about my first car back from the 70s? Or are you talking about
your first car
currently on the road right now? First car was a 72 Camaro Rally Sport. And wow. I don't have it. I wish I had it. Can you imagine it was my first car? It was a chick magnet, by the way.
That's the oldest car you ever owned?
Huh? Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like you. I really wasn't a motorhead back then. I was going to school for business.
My favorite daily driver was a 57 Star Chief. Had a dash full of chrome, and it was one cool car.
Oh, man, how cool is that? Got any pictures?
Yeah. I'll see if I can dig some up, but I don't think so.
Darn. All right. Hey, we'll need to keep our eye on this. Thank you so much. Let's check out our survey.
Our survey this week, a fun survey, fun when we start talking labor rates. So that's always everybody, everybody's listening. If they weren't paying attention, now they went, somebody say labor rate? What? Let's talk labor rates. And we did a survey a while back, and we wanted to know do you use a multiplier? Back in the day, we never heard of such thing. I remember going to a class one time, and somebody brought up the idea of a labor rate multiplier. So what's that? And they said, well, due to the fact that labor times tend to be low in the part of the country that you're in, geographically, so on and so forth, you probably ought to use a multiplier to get the rates up there where they're reasonable, where they're more accurate for the technicians. And those things started to come into play, and more shops use them now. But one thing, when we did the survey, and I was a little bit surprised that almost half of the shops do not use a multiplier.
Yeah, that was
multiplier.
Yeah.
When if the book says 1.0, they're at 1.0, and maybe in certain parts of the country that's appropriate. But a lot of shops do. About a bit more than a quarter of the shops use a multiplier of either 1.1 or 1.2. And in our survey here, of the shops that did use a multiplier, 1.2 was by far the biggest answer. About 40% of the shops that use one, that's what they do.
Yeah.
About 1 in 6 shops use a multiplier of 1.25, 1.4. And about 1 in 9, and this surprised me at the other end, about 1 in 9 shops use a multiplier of 1.5 or more.
Yeah.
Or more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it would really amaze me. And you start to do the math on this a little bit, and you see some of the discrepancies between shop profitability. If you have a shop, let's take a smaller shop that does $300,000 in labor, and the shop across the street does the same number of hours of labor, but use a multiplier of 1.2. Well, now they're up to 360,000, and that all goes to the bottom line. So shop one maybe has a net profit of $50,000. The shop across the street has a net profit of $110,000.
Yeah.
And if there's another shop up the road, it's at the 1.5 level. His labor dollars went up to 450,000. His profits multiply times 4.
Hey, look at an episode that went out today on the Remarkable Results Radio. Episode 553 was my first ever unscripted with Andy Bishop and Lucas Underwood. And this discussion came up. Okay. And, that's why the owner can't be on the counter, because she says, well, the book says 1.1 and he'll sell it to his good friend or a long-term customer for 0.9. And so not only is there the argument, Tom, with having the right labor rate, it is also billing the right hours. And those combined are so powerful. Andy shared a story about a great guy that he knows, a very successful shop owner in California. That's his factor, too. And he says he's incredible. He's booked out 2 weeks, he says. So this is a very, very, very important topic, Tom.
Well, I think there's a universal, nearly universal mindset that labor rates in these guides, no matter which guide you're using, are too low.
Right.
And I think that most shop owners would agree with that. And a few of them just probably haven't brought themselves to the point where they just feel comfortable using a multiplier. But it is very, very common. And that rate, the amount seems to be increasing.
Hey, so go to Automotive Management Network, check out the survey tab. Tom, you do such a great service for the industry there, and there's so much to see, and you can participate in just about every one of them.
Yeah, we have a current survey right now, has to do with customer transportation. What types do you offer, whether it's pickup and delivery or loaner cars, et cetera? Yeah. And do you offer it for free, or do you have a fee for it? It only takes you 10 seconds to fill the survey out. It's just a poll. It's very quick. And if you go to our homepage, automotivemanagementnetwork.com, you don't have to even click on anything. You just scroll down a bit. You'll see the survey, and you can see all the results there as soon as you answer.
Cool. Now, it's amazing how in alignment you and I are. It is truly amazing. Last week's Town Hall Academy was on loaner cars, and Tom Lambert was on, who's did a tour with us, and Greg Buckley was on. And when that episode will be released as a podcast this Thursday, a lot of great stuff. It was about the positive side, why we have loaner cars and what they mean to our business and our marketplace. So good survey. So we're doing a lot of things that helps the industry. Thanks. Let's talk money right now. Can we talk money?
All right, let's talk money. Headline says COVID-19 may be pushing car buyers towards used vehicles. And we're on this topic in some way or another, touching on the general concept there every few weeks. Recent study over the last 90 days, several months, there's been a shift of people who normally buy new to buying late model used cars. Mm-hmm. Reasons include production slowed down or stopped at many car plants, so we got availability issue. Financial concern. This year is a wild year, to say the least. People are a little bit more nervous. They want to spend a little bit less. Down payment goes further if you get a used car. Lower car payments. Used car rates have been getting more attractive over the last year, so a little bit more reasonable there. First-time car buyers, COVID effect coming in. Here's the people that in their 20s, their 30s, this boggles my mind, but they've never owned a car before.
Sure.
COVID has driven them to consider that and actually go out. And a lot of these people are actually buying cars. They don't really want to go all in and get a complete expensive brand new car. So they're backing off a little bit, and let's try a used one to start out with. The neat thing now, and to take advantage of, especially if you're an independent shop owner, is these cars, you can get a used car now that's almost new. And what I mean by that is the cars are built so well. Take a 3-year-old vehicle. It's been cared for extremely well since day one as far as all the maintenance goes. We had maybe an adult driver who just drove it very lightly. It's been detailed to perfection, and often you can sit somebody down in that car, and if you covered up the odometer, it's maybe only got 30,000 miles on it or so. You could almost convince people it's a new car because it looks almost like brand new. And to get your customers out there, especially when your customer says, I'm done with this car, I'm going to get a new one, I'm going to go shop on the new car dealer lot. If you can have a conversation with them and say, take a look at some of these lightly used cars, because you can do one of two things. You can either save a whole ton of money, 30, 40%, or you can get a way cooler car. That car that you don't think you can afford. Well, at 3 years old, you probably can afford it. You bring it back here. Let's do some used car inspections. And here's where the real beauty of this comes in. When your customer goes out and they buy a brand new car, the odds of you seeing them for the next several years are next to zero. I mean, these car dealers have these people convinced, if you let anybody under that hood other than us, the car will just melt and you may die, so people are just terrified of that concept. Well, not so much. If we go to a Chevy car dealer lot and buy a used Lexus, they're not going to take it back there. They're going to bring it to you.
Yeah.
So there's opportunities here with these late model used cars that just opportunities for us to get involved and get more customers out of it and retain them.
Tom, do you get asked as a shop owner to recommend a brand or a model, and or if they do they bring it to you for an inspection?
Constantly. I think that's a question that independent shops on the counter comes up constantly, and the whole idea of used car inspections, from simple free ones to super involved ones, is a regular diet of independent shops. People really do depend, I would say, on their quote mechanic for which car to get more than anybody else.
So the point here is, please be on the lookout as a shop owner, and please discuss this with your customer, communicating with your customer, being transparent and telling them that the trend is to buy used. I'd sure be more than happy to steer you, as we see a lot of different brands that come in here. We know what it costs to repair them. Keep that dialogue open so that new used vehicle finds a home at your place.
Yeah, that new car dealer, I'm sure they're nice people, but they are our enemies in business. We don't want those new cars. Do you buy new or used car? What do you do?
I'm committed now to buy used. In the last 2 vehicles, they were used. Yes. Okay. And there were circumstances behind it. Maybe it was an insurance claim, and I said there was no way. Did you ever total a car, Tom? And not get anything for it? And you say, oh no, anyway. Yeah. Enough said. Hey, thanks for bringing this to the forefront, Tom. I think this is just a critical piece here. And as always, aftermarketweekly.com is putting all these great gems in the minds and in the ears of our listener, of our peers in the industry. Hey, I think it's time for our weekly shop tour. And the shop tour is brought to you by Broadly, who helps local auto shops grow through great customer experiences. Let's bring up Steve. Hello, Steve. How are you, man? Steve, you hear us? Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, we going now? Hey, there you are. Looks like a nice day there. Looks like a pretty day.
Oh, every day is good when you're above the grass.
Absolutely. Hey, we're in Portage, Michigan, and Steve, we would love for you to show us around the shop and get the tour and see what y'all got going there.
Yeah. Hey, so let me turn the camera around and try not to hang you up.
All right. Take a minute to switch to the other camera on the phone.
Here we go.
Sometimes that takes a second. This is there we go. Nope. Fantastic.
Are we on? Hey.
Yeah, we are on.
Okay.
Yeah, take us. Let's go on a tour.
All right. So this is the front office. This used to be a Marathon gas station. Here's the back office. Okay. The brains of the operation.
The boss.
The boss. You right. Headquarters. Here's our shop.
Dandy toolbox there.
Yeah. How much do you think they got in that?
More than I got in my car, I'll bet.
Yeah. So years ago, they put this addition on. It's by the wall.
Okay.
Got an antique there, the old brake lathe.
Oh, got to have that.
And I had from headquarters to be sure and see the plants and the flowers.
Oh yeah, you got some special flowers. What are those?
I knew you'd ask me that, you dog. They're cannas.
Okay. They're huge.
Don't ask about those. I don't know.
Now, how many bays were there in the first building? Because you got 2
Down to
buildings.
that.
How many bays were in the first one?
First building is 4 bays,
Okay.
and then ample parking, which sometimes actually is full. We do a lot of RVs and commercial vehicles.
That's huge parking area.
Quick history myself. What's that?
Huge parking area.
So I started here in '73.
Okay.
Yeah, you're cutting out on me. I started here in '73, and then, of course, worked the way up like everyone does. And then '93, Jane and I bought it from Charlie Kendall, who was the last partner in it.
All right.
And this is our alignment. Do, like, say, all kinds of. We do a lot of classic cars. We've done race cars. We even did Portage's fire truck one time. And,
You are like one of the, you're
building,
alignment central for that area of the country, aren't you? I mean, all kinds of, you do more alignments than anybody.
We are. We do probably, I'm guessing, 40% of our sales is alignment and steering suspension work. So here's the racks.
That's a ton. Okay.
And we have John Bean for our aligner, the V3.
All right.
And if we get a bigger truck we can't do, we still have the old Combiflex and Uniflexes to do them on, the old manual heads.
All right.
Which those aren't pretty, but they do a great.
Well, they don't have to be pretty.
And so this building, exactly. This building used to be was built as a body shop, and then it was a soap factory. After it was a soap factory, that's where we bought it from. Cut the pit, took out the other stuff they had in there, the other walls, and like I say, back in the '90s, we added that back bay on to get more RVs and things inside.
Okay, so how many total bays do you have in that second building? Has how many bays?
So back here we have 4 bays.
Okay.
The back one here is really deep, so we put the pit in back here too, so that we can get RVs or like say a lot of commercial vehicles in here for service. So we put this pit in too when we added the building.
A lot of shops love to have one alignment rack, and you have 3 basically. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm having that because it's tied up with something. We still have the other ones to do something with.
All right.
And then we this year we upgraded the hoist 10,000 pound.
But if somebody wants to get into aligning the heavy duty, the big trucks, what kind of money do they have to spend to get into that?
As far as equipment?
Yeah, exactly.
But I tell you what, though, if they do, there's definite market for it. Like our alignment stuff. Shoot, we're doing body shops. We do dealers. RVs. The dealers, we're getting them because they're buying these new RVs and the springs aren't strong enough. And so everybody complains about wanders and everything else. So we end up putting stiffer springs in and fixing that. And we schedule minimum 3 days out to do or steering work.
Well, Steve, we're about out of time, but we're about out of time, and but it's cool to see the tour. That's the first time we've seen a shop that actually has two buildings in the same property, and then one of the buildings dedicated specifically to one type of service, alignment, and so on. So there's so many variety of setups with independent shops, and this is something new. I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, Steve, I have a question for you. This is Carm. When you bought the shop, was it an alignment specialist at that time, or did you commit to that? And why did you commit to alignments? Well, it's possible he didn't hear me.
Well, and this is we mentioned this from time to time. This is the fun or beauty or difference in doing this live. Like Steve and I did kind of a little run through of this earlier this morning, and it just was flawlessly. The video had nothing cut out. It was just perfect. The whole thing. Yeah. And you do it 2 hours later, and
it's a cell. It's a cell tower. It's a cell tower. It's amazing. You know what? It was still great. I learned a lot, and I believe our listeners and the people who are watching this. So thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
That was wonderful.
We really appreciate it a lot.
Are we going anywhere next week? What's next week?
We've been way south. We've been way west, and next week we're going to go as far north as we've been so far. We're going to go up to Traverse City to Marathon Automotive.
Thanks to Broadleaf for bringing us the shop tour. Tom, let's do some trivia.
Some trivia? I just love some of these headlines. Well, this happens to be about the state of Michigan and the state of Michigan government, which actually has been quite prominent in the news over the last several months in kind of the unique way that Michigan government does some things. But with all the things going on with transportation, drone deliveries, self-driving cars, and the fact that transportation is just changing rapidly, all kinds of new technologies coming on. And this is one thing that Michigan government, they looked at and they said, we have 17 departments in the state of Michigan that in some way touch upon future transportation technologies, all this kind of stuff. And we also noticed these departments don't always exactly talk to each other, but they found a solution, as they will do. They created the Office of Future Mobility and Transportation. Basically, they created an 18th department.
It's government. You just keep adding people and you keep adding departments.
And it said part of the news story, and this department is already up and running. Part of the news story mentioned that currently the budget is unknown. I think it's government talk for it's none of your business. And of course, that department won't talk to the other 17. But anyway, it's just so fun when you see this stuff, and it kind of like,
tell me how you really
you're
feel.
Reading The Onion, but you're not.
So what's going on special there? Rick, put up that picture, which I think is kind of cool.
Oh, the little mobile. Oh,
that was our used car picture. We wanted that was.
Oh
right there.
There's our little mobile thing where I think you jump in on some kind of business campus. You jump in that thing and tell it where you want to go, and hopefully it takes you there.
But isn't that part of the Michigan? But Tom, I think that's part of the Michigan project, right?
Oh yeah, that looks like something Michigan would design.
Something that Michigan would do. And the reason that Michigan's doing all of this is it because Detroit is if you will, the center of their world.
We are the center of transportation. Always have been for a long time, and it not as much as it used to be, but it's still we try.
How cool. Well, hey, I'll tell you, this was another great. I mean, I can't believe it. It's 29 minutes after the hour. We promised to be off by 25 after. We beg everyone's forgiveness for going long, but it's lunchtime in the East Coast and second cup of coffee time out in the West Coast. I had a blast. Thank you so much.
If you want us to tour your shop, if you got a topic, we're open to other topics. If you got a suggestion for us, you see something cool in the news, say, hey, why don't you cover this? Somebody actually sent me this morning. Sent me a thing like that this morning. If you want to become a sponsor, Carm at aftermarketweekly.com. You can contact us, ask us, tell us anything.
Yeah. It was good. Thank you. A lot going on in your world, in our industry, and we want to cover those topics, as Tom said. Please communicate with us. We all have so many friends in the industry. Everyone knows our emails. We're on Messenger. We're on Facebook. Please reach out. This is your show. This is your Aftermarket Weekly show, and it's done live. And, of course, you can watch it repurposed on Tom's site, on aftermarketweekly.com, and, of course, on Remarkable Results. There's a million places to be able to watch all the replays. So thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for your support. Thanks for all the watches that we are getting, thousands of them, and we appreciate that, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, good to see you, man.
Hey, next week, we'll have some fun.
Bye.
Bye.